I am unashamed. What about you?
Welcome back to Unashamed. We are super excited today because, Christian, we've had you on a couple of times. You're old hat. You're just one of the guys. Yep. But we have never had Sadie on the Unashamed podcast, and you're here, Sadie.
I'm so excited to be here. I finally made it.
You are here. We had to boot Jase off the set to be able to make room for Sadie and Christian, which was not a bad thing. Although I will say he was
definitely an upgrade. Definitely an upgrade.
A big upgrade. But he was mopey yesterday, Sadie, because he was a little bit pouty because he wanted to be here when you were going to be on the podcast.
I know. He's been so encouraging. Every time I've almost been on. I got sick last time.
Yeah, it was about this time last year because it was Halloween.
It
right
was.
Around Halloween, yeah.
And he was like, really, you canceled last minute. And then I finally rescheduled and we had to kick him off because I wanted to bring my husband along with me because, all the fun things. And yes, this is Christian's third time on y'all's podcast.
It is. He's one of the guys now. The last time we had him on, we just did our regular Bible study and he did amazing.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
I love being invited down here to be on y'all's podcast. So thank you so much.
It's a lot of fun. And then we got Zach from North Carolina. Which Zach kind of scared Sadie because he came in like the voice of God earlier.
You literally did.
Sadie didn't know you were hiding out in her picture frame over there.
Yeah, I come in virtually, so sometimes I'm not very consistent, but.
Well, I knew it was your voice, but I didn't see you anywhere in the room. And it was like,
where is he
what's
coming?
the plug for the book? I'm like, Zach? Like, always looking out for the book. Thank you.
Zach is like the guy who called into the radio, like the radio show.
That's it.
This is Zach from North Carolina.
Hey, Zach from North Carolina. What do you got for us today? So
my role, Sadie, is when there's a dead space and it's awkward, then I jump in and I'll say something to just keep it moving. So if it's awkward,
here's
then I'll
another
jump
thing
in.
we do now. Just to let you know, I don't anticipate it today, but you never know, so I'll make you aware. So Jay's got a new toy from Maddie, and it's crickets. And so it's mainly for when Zach drops a big word, because he likes to drop one of those 4 to 6 syllable words on us from time to time. So he loves it for that and then other things. So
that's funny.
If Zach drops a big word, just if you hear the crickets, you know that's what it's about. It's not you. We're not making fun of you.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
So I got to ask you, Sadie, the first time you'd been out here to the lair, and I always ask people when they come out for the first time to do the podcast, so what were you thinking as you're walking through everything out on the other side of this door?
It was hilarious. I mean, it was just so funny because you would think I would expect this because
you're in our family.
I'm in the family, and I've obviously come to your house my whole life. But I still did not expect this. I kept saying, Christian, wait, where is it? Where is it? He's like, that you're about to see it. And as soon as we came around the corner, I was like, no way, that is it. However, I then quickly was like, well, of course that's it. Because Pepaw Phil would not do a podcast if it was not something like this. I mean, I don't want to say you wouldn't. You probably still would. But this definitely probably helped you say yes.
No, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to go to town. This is just kind of what we do.
Well,
that's like Jeremiah Johnson. He's been to a town. That's it.
To a town. Well, when we were coming up, Christian saying, "Oh yeah, this is where we go hunting, and then we clean the ducks here, and then this is all the ride." And I was like, "Okay, now this is making sense," because he can literally go duck hunting, walk in, film a podcast. But it is hilarious. I mean, the reach y'all have is incredible. Every time, if I ever look at the charts, it's always like us back and forth, which is so fun.
This, which is so much fun. And I've had people say, "Well, do you think you'll ever beat Sadie?" And I said, "Well, we don't really want to beat Sadie. We just love being in the neighborhood with Sadie. That means she's having an impact because I don't think our audiences are probably the same.
They're not.
They're probably very different. Yeah. And yet we still have this huge impact. Which one of my questions that I was going to ask you, Sadie, was just looking back all those years ago, being on the show, doing Dancing with the Stars, could you have ever imagined that you would have the impact that you have on so many, first girls, now women?
Never.
I mean, all across the globe. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. I definitely would never have thought that. And it's so cool with God because you look back at your life and then you're like, okay, I can see that you were doing something in me. I can see, the Bible studies I would lead in middle school, how that helped shape who I am now and what I'm doing now. But of course, you don't know what tools he's putting in your toolbox for what reason until later. But no, I didn't. And, of course, the church we went to, women weren't preaching in the church. So I hadn't seen that and thought of that. I did not even imagine at all my life going that direction until, after Dancing with the Stars, I was kind of in this place where I was like, this has been really exciting, everything that's happened for our family. And the fame was exciting, but it also was very scary to me. Yeah. Like, it was a little bit overwhelming. And there's this quote from Mr. Rogers, and he says, fame is just a 4-letter word, like tape or Zoom or face.
I just remember you were a small little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Bible verses were coming out of it.
Yeah, there's a famous video of that.
I'm saying this in my heart, and I'm not, and I'm serious. I'm not joking. I am saying this in my heart. Jesus came to earth because he wanted us to be nice, and he died for us. Yes, for all of us, for all of us. Sometimes made mistakes, but when he made mistakes, that doesn't mean you're not going up there. You can still go up there, because we know that you're worshiping the Lord and you're loving him. And as I was famous, and so I would still love the Lord, but I would not just remember about myself. I would love the Lord.
You were how? 4 maybe?
Yeah, 5. And it is true. Like, that's what I mean. You look back and you're like, you can see what God was doing. Yep. But at the time, you don't know. So anyways, I just kind of was like, fame is just a word unless you do something with it. Yeah. And that's whenever something started shifting in my heart. It's like, okay, I got to do something positive. And I had the example of all of y'all, and everything you do, you're preaching the word. And so I started doing that, preaching the word.
Which is so awesome that we get to be a part of that with you, because I'll be doing an event, and afterwards somebody will come up and they'll have a daughter or two with them, and they're like, oh, they're huge Sadie fans, and they do this, that, and the other, and so it's all interconnected in the sense, because we all get to do it, from a platform that the Almighty built us, That's right. But you're right, Sadie, he had us prepared at an early age, and it was similar for me. In my case, it wasn't film, but I was, I think, 7 at the time, and Mom tells the story about when we were going through the darkest point that we showed on the movie, that, I had a word from Mom, that we're going to be okay, our family's going to make it. And it was at a time where she was just at that sunken low. Yep. And so when I look back on that now and think about all the opportunities I've had to teach people, to preach to people, there was an anointing early. That there was something there. And so, I had to go through struggles to get, where I needed to be. But at the same time, God a lot of times picks who he's going to use from a very early age. And so he did that with you, which is a blessing.
Yeah, that video, you can actually watch it on YouTube for those listening.
Really?
Yeah, I was 5 years old, and I was preaching to my parents on the countertop, and I was just saying, it doesn't matter who you are, God loves you. And I said, let's give it up for God. But the coolest part within that whole thing is I said, even if I get famous one day, I'm not going to think about myself. I'm giving it to God. And it's like, why would I say that? I was 5 years old, and we lived in Calhoun, Louisiana.
That's a pretty good line for a 5-year-old.
I know. That's like I'm saying. God was obviously in it the whole time, but when you can really see his hand like that, it's pretty powerful.
Well, I'm hoping, because we were coming home it's been a few months ago, I guess, and Pearl at the time was 5, my granddaughter. And I guess she had heard something in Bible hour that got her cranked up. And so all of a sudden I hear her back there, and she's like, that devil, he never wants what's good for you. You have to follow God because he's always there. And she's going. So I looked over at BK, and BK starts filming her.
Wow.
So we got about 30 seconds.
That's awesome.
So I said, hang on to that, because you never know. I said, she's the same age as Sadie. Maybe one day we'll be saying the same thing about her.
That's so cool. I love that.
It was pretty awesome. So I had to tell, this is funny, Zach. So Corey had her 50th birthday party this past weekend, and luckily we were home to be able to go over it for a few minutes. And so they were getting ready to do a giant nitty-gritty game. They said, the games are about to begin. I said, okay, that's my cue to leave. And so I don't really do games at this point in my life because it's injuries and such. And so, because I saw Christian like totally demolish a trampoline. That's why I don't do games.
I did break a few springs.
You broke the trampoline.
He broke the trampoline. I mean, he's like,
wow,
captain
Doesn't
of.
sound good.
No,
It's too many squats.
Well,
Yeah.
Too many squats, Christian.
Let
Well,
me
it was a race. Okay, yeah, I'll let Sadie explain.
Well, it was just kind of funny because the reason I even put the thing on the trampoline is because I knew Christian was going to be faster than everybody. So I was trying to slow him down by having to jump on the trampoline. So that would be like the leveling, like, it would level the ground for everyone. But
Yeah.
as soon as Christian beat everyone and jumped on the trampoline, the springs just went totally.
Well, so the
totally
race,
busted.
so the race was like you had to run. It was like maybe 20, 30 yards to pick up. It was like 2 stuffed animal teddy bears, which was the whole thing was kind of weird. You had to pick up 2 teddy bears and like hold them at your waist when you ran, and then you had to run another like 20 yards and pick up fruit snacks off
On
the
the
trampoline, and then do like a loop, and then run back to where to Mama
Always
and
wondered
Sadie
what
were.
city people did.
Yeah, that's it.
So this was why my instincts told me when they said the games are about to begin. I said, okay, I need to find
So
Corey.
you had left, Al. You left for all. You didn't get to witness all this.
No, I
happen?
saw it all on video. So,
Oh, it is on video.
It is on video. So here's the moment, though. So I wanted to find Corey because I was been visiting with everybody in the family, but I had not told Corey happy birthday. So I was going to find her and tell her happy birthday before I left. So I'm looking for Corey. So I walk outside. Sadie comes around a corner, and she's wearing Corey's high school cheerleading outfit. So you just got to put yourself in my mental frame. I'm looking for Corey. Sadie comes around the corner. Could you see it on my face?
I did.
I stopped and I paused because in a second, my mind was telling me this is Corey, but we've gone back in time. Like I felt like I was in some kind of crazy movie or something. So it took me like 2 seconds. I'm looking at Sadie. Sadie's looking at me, and I was like, I was looking for your mom, but you look like your mom.
Yeah, he was so confused. He was like, I was looking for your mom, but it was like so confused. When I was wearing her outfit because we were all dressed like mom from the different decades of mom's life.
Right.
So I had mom's cheerleading picture, and I was actually wearing her uniform, and I had my hair like her, and it stopped you, which is actually funny because, everyone says I'm my dad's twin, which I really am in a lot of ways, but
You have his smile, but it's something about that look.
Yeah.
You look so much like him.
that was so funny.
It was a surreal moment. It really was. It took me a few seconds to gather myself. So then I went up to Corey and said, Corey, I just saw you from like 40 years ago, 30 or 40 years ago.
That was so funny.
And it's your daughter, which was pretty amazing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
People were the different eras of Corey. And the Howards, Dad, the Howards know how to do birthday parties. I'm gonna tell you, I mean, Corey's side of the family, they are epic party people.
Oh, yeah.
They know. They all everybody shows up for the party. Everybody's engaged. They're the best that's ever been for birthday parties, just so you know. Us, not so much.
Yeah, no.
Have you ever had a big birthday celebration that you planned?
Do you have a favorite birthday party that you've done for yourself?
Not really.
Dad doesn't even know when his birthday is. We usually have to tell him. And you just really at this point you just soon not know, right, Dad?
That's right.
You just say I'm heading toward 80 or whatever.
Yep.
I love it. So also I wanted to say before we get into our regular stuff, you guys are have built a new home, and you're my next door neighbor, which we're super excited about. We live kind of in a compound situation because it's funny because my family's close to me, and then Willie's family's pretty close to him. And then, of course, Jeff and Jace are in the neighborhood as well. So it's kind of fun that we all get to be there together.
Yeah, we're so excited. And Jay told me that he said, it's a good thing to be my neighbor because I'm going to be cooking out there. Y'all going to be smelling it. I said, hey.
He told me he's going to take Christian under his wing to teach you some of his grill master techniques.
Well, he did. Well, I shot a deer the other day, and he met me out there for like an hour. We were skinning it, and he was showing me all the all the techniques for it the other day.
Yeah.
I did tell Jay, I said, look, here's the thing. I need you to help Christian because Christian, hasn't been a hunter until this year. He started getting really into hunting, which I haven't had to have the, hunting season wife, experience where your husband's gone all the time in the woods. I've heard of this from everyone in our family, but I hadn't had to experience it yet.
Yeah.
And Christian starts hunting and he's, in the woods all the time. So I said, look, I'm totally fine with this. This is great. But I do just want you to learn how to actually get the meat and cook the meat because then that'll make it all worth it.
That's right.
So Jay's going to be helping Christian out.
And Sadie grew up in a home where the mom does not do a lot of the cooking, but dad does. So
true.
it's a tradition, I think, in your family.
It's a tradition.
I'm actually
last time I was
good.
last time I was with you guys for dinner, Willie was making hamburgers, and I think Christian, you probably ate. You had to have eaten 5 hamburgers that I saw.
This man can eat.
Yeah, I think it was either 5 or 6, but yeah.
It was impressive. So you're gonna. I think it would be a good move for you to kill animals and to stack your freezer full of meat.
That's exactly
Because
right.
what I saw was impressive.
He's a protein man. Let's take our first break. Well, it's that season, boys. The duck season is upon us. Deer hunting, it's all out there.
Breaking news, I've actually participated in duck hunting, and our season is weeks away.
A month out.
But I got to hunt in Maryland, ducks, me and Jep and my good friend Murray, and we whacked them. And look, it was drizzle rain,
Yep.
wind blowing 40 miles an hour, and my gun performed perfectly. You know why?
Wow.
Because I cleaned it before I went out there.
There you go. It works every time, right, Dad? So our friends at Barrel Buddy, that was the concept they came up with. They were telling us a story when we first met these guys and talked to them on the phone, which, by the way, they let off with a prayer, which is why we like them even more. And they talked about being in a drizzly, rainy, muddy field days, and they had the old system with the patches and the bore snake and the ways to try to clean your gun. They thought, man, this is just not very effective. And so they came up with the Barrel Buddy model, which are these white polymers, fit any gauge, fit any rifle, any pistol, and they clean it out. You can see what comes out of it. You know what comes out of it as well as when you look down your gun barrel. So check these guys out. We want you to be safe and effective. BarrelBuddy.com is where you go, BARREL Buddy.com. Yeah, I mean, Jay is a great teacher of all things hunting and cooking because he's gotten pretty good at both.
Yeah, but Jay is just so funny because he was, we had hoisted the deer up with the pulley system and everything, and he was so engaged in it because it was a pretty big deer body wise, and he just kept being like, oh my gosh, I just cannot believe this thing. So he was showing me just all the things with the knife and where to cut it and how to do all the things. But he was geeking out about it. But he's awesome.
It's pretty exciting for us, I know for Dad, to know that like all this hunting property that we've accumulated through our lives. Because when we were first down here, when I was younger than y'all, we didn't have any money to buy hunting property, so we just were like everybody else. We're hunting on public land. And so part of the blessing of the Almighty for us is to have this place and now we're able to make it like a conservatory, a place, where we have growing deer herds and turkey and ducks and all that. And so to get to see the younger generation, you were talking about, Sadie, about, getting to experience that. I love that because that means that this will live on beyond us. I mean, Dad, and then of course the older brothers. I mean, we're getting at that place where we're wanting our kids and grandkids to take that legacy. Because if you don't, if somebody doesn't get engaged, involved in that, then we won't get to keep this. And
A good example of that, it was about noon. Most people don't know this. About noon the following day, they were approaching the city. Peter went up on the roof to pray. He became hungry, and he wanted something to eat. While the meal was being prepared, he fell into a trance. He saw heaven opened, and something like a large sheet being let down to earth by its 4 corners. Here comes a message. It looks like a big sign. It contained, the pictures on it, it contained all kinds of 4-footed animals. Well, start adding them up, and you'll come up with them. That deer, how many feet did he have? How
Four.
many did the deer?
Four.
Had 4? Yeah, that's what he's one of them. As well as reptiles of the earth, and birds of the air. A voice told him, it's the Almighty talking, Peter, kill and eat. Peter said, arguing with him, I've never eaten anything impure or unclean. He said, the voice spoke to him again, don't call anything impure that God has made clean. Eat them, kill them and eat them. So it is kind of amazing that had to be verified in case somebody in some cultures say, well, we're against hunting or whatever.
Yeah.
You said, God's fault. He's the one who made it. He made you and the animals and told you could eat them all you want and kill them and eat them.
Well, and there's something
It is interesting that he did show that.
there's something great about a tradition in a family that goes through generations of being able to enjoy something and build something together.
That's right.
So obviously we have that spiritual legacy, but even just a legacy like that. I mean, so I'm thrilled to see you guys getting into hunting and that being a part of what you're learning, and then to teach your kids as that goes forward. I mean, that's a great thing.
Yeah, we're gonna need to take Sadie on a duck hunt this year though, because she's never been. So
Yeah, you need to go.
that'd be fun.
Yes, I would be down for the hang. I'll go for the fun.
Well, most Robertson women have gone once. And once only.
You would need a few.
You may be different, but I don't. Most of them went one time. Or like, okay, this is great. I'm
You
glad.
would need a few lessons about weapons. And
She just wants to
That's
observe.
what I said. I'll
She
just
just wants
go
to
for
observe.
the hang. I'll just go be in the blind. I
Drink
would
some
love
coffee.
seeing the sunrise with y'all and just
Yeah.
hanging, but I don't have to shoot it.
Phyllis.
You don't want a gun, Sadie? You're not going to take the gun with you?
I don't think I need one. I'll just be there for the fun. However, I did see Phyllis post on Instagram the other day about her having a copperhead like right beside her. Cottonmouth.
Turns out it wasn't, by the way. It was a water snake. But upon further review, once those of us who knew what a cottonmouth was
Oh my gosh.
took a look at, but it's still a big, scary looking snake.
That
I mean,
was
it
a
was like right
huge-
next to her
he
foot.
looks pretty close to a cottonmouth.
He does.
But this one wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
Oof, in that case, y'all might have to teach me how to use a gun because that would scare the mess out of me.
No, because Christian would be your protector. He would jump in there and
We'd
wrangle
rather
that
you
snake,
not blow a hole in the bottom of the line.
which has been done before. I will say that. Well, and then when you and Jacob went hunting last year, I heard Jacob put the wrong shells in his gun. So
That was actually just a few weeks ago.
no, it was during teal season.
Yeah, it was during teal season. Yeah, that was a nightmare. That was not a good situation.
The Chronicles of Jacob hunting are pretty funny. Yeah, the next generation, Christian and Jacob, they love it. But
Yeah.
the stories they already have and the pictures they send us when they're out in the woods is pretty hilarious. They could definitely carry on another TV show that would be very entertaining of the next generation.
So
Mainly Jacob.
So I'll tell you this, Christian, because since Jacob's not here, I wish he was. So Jay's, I always get Jay's take. He said, Christian, he's teachable. I mean, like, he's open. He's willing to learn. But Jacob, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
So that's Stone's take on the two of you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I like
you're teachable.
I like to try to be teachable. Jacob's just so funny because he's so hungry. He is so hungry to learn, but he's just. I don't really know. He's just hilarious. There's always something like that happens that you just kind of scratch your head at.
That's funny.
So Sadie, I wanted just because we've had Christians. The first time we had Christian on, we were all, and Jace was here. We were all so curious because we didn't really know like how y'all met and all that whole story. And so we were just peppering him with questions about it. And he did well telling the story. But since he's on record now as an Unashamed Nation, I at least want to hear your version of meeting him and like when did you know and all that.
The longer version.
Yeah.
The longer version. Yeah, well, it's always funny because when people ask us, like, how did y'all meet? Depending on how much time we know we have, he'll tell the story or I'll tell the story because his story is very short. I'll try to be fast. But yeah, we met. It was actually a really cool thing. So I was down at the beach with my friends. I'm sure this is probably so far lining up with his story.
Yep.
But it was kind of unique because I was in a relationship with this guy. but we were long distance. And I was like, okay, I knew we needed to break up. It was time. And so as soon as we got to the beach with my friends, I was like, I'm so excited for this vacation, but like, I need to break up with my boyfriend because I just did not have peace about it. It was just time. So I did. Then I tell my friends, I am so done with dating. I'm putting this to the side right now. This has just been too much drama. And so I'm just going to take a little dating break.
6 months.
I said I was going to take 6 months of a break. So I say this, they video me saying it to
So
hold
it's
me
no
accountable.
dating for 6 months.
No dating for 6 months. I was like, I have to just stop. I just need to just spend time with the Lord. And so they video me saying it to hold me accountable. So I fully intended to follow that plan until the very next day. I met Christian.
Until the very next day.
Until the very
24 hours later.
It wasn't even 24 hours later.
Was it love at first sight?
It really was. I'll never forget. I literally will never forget
Well,
this
the Almighty
moment.
might as well send him on down. Just say, look.
I know. But I do think God, I think there's a reason so that I acknowledge that I really wasn't dating well and I did need to slow it down, and it actually set us up for success.
Well, it's hard to believe, but the Christmas season is coming. And so, we try to give you some good ideas for some great Christmas gifts, and we've got one. In this one, you would get every month a faith-based kids book club done by Brave Books. And Jace, you happen to know one of the authors of one of their fantastic books.
I do. I consider my lovely wife, Missy, a warrior when it comes to family, in our family, and just helping other families. And she partnered with Brave Books and come up with Because You're My Family. It's a wonderful book. She did amazing.
And we have a lot of other great authors, Kirk Cameron, a lot of people. Really fantastic books, allows you to spend some time with your children, of course, strengthening their morality, but also the bond within your family. The Freedom Island Book Club from Brave Books is a series of books that helps you grow this relationship with your kids. I can't think of a better thing to do, especially during the Christmas season, than share this with them. Subscribe to the Freedom Island Book Club at bravebooks.com. You'll get Brave's newest book for free when you subscribe. Use the code Unashamed to get 20% off your subscription. That's bravebooks.com. Use the code Unashamed for 20% off your subscription.
So I see Christian on the beach, and Bella had known him. She met him like a year and a half before. And so I knew who he was, but I'd never met him. So I saw him. I was like, oh, shoot. And so I told my friends, I literally turned around before we walked up to him, and I said, delete that video. Like, I knew as soon as I saw him, I was like, yeah.
Destroy the evidence.
Destroy that.
And my friend was like, no, don't even talk to him.
We still have the video.
Yeah, we still have the video. And it's so funny because it's dated,
Yeah, right.
and it's July 2nd, 2018, and I met him July 3rd. And so it's just so funny. Well, then I really did try to avoid him all night. I was like, okay, I just said I'm not going to date anyone. He's too cute. I can't even talk to him. And then he came up and talked to me at the end of the night.
Because he hadn't made a video.
He hadn't made a video. He was in the clear.
He was still on the move. That's what was happening here. I see
So
that.
he was still in the clear. So I ended up following him on Instagram later that night. And I don't know if he told this part of the story, but when I followed him, I saw that he had messaged me a year and a half before, and I never saw the message. And it was
I
like
think I shared that.
the nicest message ever. And he was like, I saw you preach at Passion. It was really powerful. I love what God's doing in your life. And I was like, this guy. So,
What else did I say?
and then he said, and I think you're the most beautiful girl in the world, which I was like, that's very nice. And so that was how we started talking. But how I knew he was the one is actually kind of a funny story. Like when I knew, like, okay, I think I'm going to marry you,
Definitely did not share this part.
was actually when I went to break up with him. And
Which I did not know that. I did not know I was going to get dumped.
so it was.
So now we've been with Christian enough. He's the guy from earlier. You're about to break up with him and make another 6
I know.
months.
I was about to break up with him. And then by the end of the conversation, I was like, I'm going to marry him. So it was actually kind of funny because he didn't realize I was breaking up with him. And still
Which
recently.
I'm still in denial. That
So recently I was telling this story. And
keep in mind, I did not know that until you didn't tell me 10 months post that moment that you were going to dump me.
No,
I didn't know
he
that.
didn't know until like
you
months
didn't pick
later.
up on it in the moment at all.
No,
Not at all.
No, or 10 months post that conversation.
But let me tell you how cool it was. So this is what happened. So I was like, okay, I really don't need to be. I said I wasn't gonna date anyone. This is after we had an awesome first date. Everything was going great. But then I was like, I just don't need to be dating anyone. I'm too busy right now. Like I was about to go on tour. I was about to be in like 17 cities preaching all this stuff. He was in college. I was like, I was really thinking I'm not gonna be a good girlfriend right now. Like I don't really have time to come see you, and I'm not gonna be able to talk to you all the time. So I was
She was going to go with the "It's not you, it's me."
It was like
It was the
truly, it's
ultimate.
not
yeah,
you,
that's,
it's
that's
me.
the ultimate. It's not you.
It was
it's
the
me.
ultimate. It's not you.
And it really wasn't him. It really was me. Like, I really was like, this is me. I'm removing myself from the situation. So I called him and I was like, hey, our date was great, all this stuff. But I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I just really don't think I'm going to be able to date right now because
This is
I'm
so
going
not
on
how that
tour. No,
conversation.
this is how I was.
I would have
why I
known.
wanted you both
I would
in the
have
same
known you
room.
were going.
So I was like, I'm
Yeah.
really sorry. I was like, I would just feel so bad. I was like, I would feel so bad that I couldn't talk to you, I couldn't call you, couldn't text you, I would be on the road. And then Christian was like, what? He was like, hold on. He's like, just stop talking. Which, first of all, I just love that. For some reason, that just already, I was like, this is great because I feel like I naturally like lead in situations and scenarios, and I didn't want to lead in a relationship. I really wanted whoever I married to lead me, but sometimes it's hard because I naturally
Because you're a leader.
am a leader.
Yeah.
And so I love that he was like, wait, he was like, hold on, stop talking. And then he's like, don't ever apologize for what God's doing in your life. And just when he said that, I was like, wow. And I realized I do apologize a lot because I feel like, oh, I'm sorry I'm so busy, or I'm sorry I'm doing this or whatever. And I never want people to feel, I didn't want people my age to feel intimidated by what I was doing or jealous of what I was doing. So I would constantly like apologize. And he was like, don't apologize for what God's doing in your life. And then he said, if it's a win for you and if it's a win for God, and if it's a win for the kingdom, then it will always be a win for me. And then I was like, forget the plan of breaking up with you. I'm going to marry you. That was like awesome. And so I just like,
Your grandmother, when we got together, she was in the 11th grade, and I'm graduating. So I'm a senior. She's got one more year of high school. I said, Whip, it's been fun. And she said, wait a minute. She said, do you think you're going to college and leave me over here? She said, I'm going with you. I said, get in the truck.
see,
Yeah,
sometimes,
it was just like this, just like you guys.
sometimes
Yeah.
you just need to be
Let's
like,
go.
no,
That's
Basically,
we're
what
not.
Christian
I
said.
better
Get in the
tell your
truck,
mama.
right?
Get in
I
the
love
truck,
it.
Sadie.
I love it. I love the confidence of just like, no, we're not. This is a good thing. And just, yeah.
Which is funny because I'd still just.
He
had no
didn't know I
idea,
was breaking up
I thought
with
it was
him.
just a normal conversation, but
Well,
Yeah, so truth be told, the confidence came from the fact he didn't know you were breaking up with him. So he would
yeah,
just,
definitely.
true.
yeah, that helps.
I was nervous, so I'm sure I did fumble my words. So thankfully, I didn't really get it all out before he stopped me in my tracks. And then I just we kept talking. I just acted like I wasn't breaking up with him and got on board with what he was saying. And I was like, I love
And
that.
now you've reminded him again, all these years later, that was it.
Yep,
It is interesting that you moved.
Well,
on.
you have two beautiful kids.
we do. We have beautiful girls, awesome
You're
family.
preaching the gospel all over the world.
And I want to know how
God's
is
doing some great things with you, little girl.
he is.
Thank you.
How has that changed you guys? Because obviously you went into your relationship, and we were talking about the book because you guys have written a new book, and some of that goes in with what you were just talking about. But how is that now being parents changed the dynamic of you guys, even in ministry and everything that you're doing? Because kids put you in a new season, right? I mean, it's different. I mean,
Yeah.
what would you say has been the biggest difference being a mom and a dad now?
You want to go?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say simply time. I mean, you have less time to do things that you typically would do if you weren't a parent. When we were newly married and even just before we were married, you had a nice quiet time in the morning and you had, time to do kind of things more so like that. But now it's, we were up at 2 a.m. last night and 5:30. And so we woke up at 7:30 this morning, like just feel like I got hit by an 18-wheeler. And the last thing I was thinking about doing was like going to read my Bible or have a quiet time because I'm just like in the biggest days. So it's like trying to adapt to things like that of, carving out time throughout the day and different situations that, for time with God that looked different, years ago before that. But yeah, it's been cool because we travel a lot and our kids come with us to, I'd say 90% of the things that we get to do. So it's been cool to invite them into those moments. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of different dynamics of time that I would say for me is probably the biggest adjustment.
It's been awesome. I think Christian, he's such a disciplined person, and we talk about that a lot in the book. He is very disciplined, and so I think for him having kids, it was like, whoa, my routine is totally off. I am not a very routine person. I kind of I'm used to living in the chaos, and I think having our show when we had it throughout my high school years, that was just so crazy. You can't make it.
It was drinking out of a fire hose.
It was
the whole period of time. Let's take another break. So, Dad, we've seen your videos get censored a few times in the past. You had one a few years ago where you were plucking a duck, and they called it animal cruelty, even though the duck was already dead. So the tech companies can shut you down anytime over the silliest.
There's a lot of feathers flying in every direction just to meet the world's food stuff.
That's exactly right. You got to plug them somewhere, don't you? So these tech companies can shut you down anytime over the silliest things. The folks over at Blaze have always let us say whatever we want on any of Dad's shows. And now they've launched another way to deliver content that won't get canceled or demonetized. If you go to theblaze.com right now, you'll see they've redesigned Blaze News. They've got news, opinion, analysis, lifestyle, sports, and tech commentary. But what you won't get are those annoying ads you see on other websites. All they're asking is if you find their work valuable, visit theblaze.com and subscribe to Blaze News. It's less than the cost of a cup of coffee a month to cut out the ads and invest directly in their news and commentary. If you're already a Blaze TV subscriber, the new ad-free Blaze News will be included with your Blaze TV subscription, along with Unashamed and 800 episodes of In the Woods with Phil. So check out the new site at theblaze.com. It was drinking out of a fire hose the whole time. So you grew up. I didn't think about that. That's how you grew up.
Yeah, so I grew up.
Well,
Truth be told, though, I think that's our entire family. We do kind of operate in the chaos. It's kind of the magic,
It's true,
but it's exhausting at times.
And I think that really is how I grew up. Our schedules were always crazy. It was always changing. There's always so many people in the house, and so I like that. That doesn't, I kind of lean into that. And so having kids, yes, the schedule's crazy. And I said now I kind of have a permanent eye twitch because I just don't sleep at night. But this is my favorite season of life ever. I mean, I love it. And I think having two girls is the most fun thing in the world. And in some ways, it actually makes our time even more intentional when we are together as a family, because I think that time is just so sacred. And when we're home and it's just the four of us and it's just been so
Who looks
sweet.
after the kids when y'all have a function like this?
Yeah, we have an amazing nanny. She's awesome. She is a godsend. She's the best ever and loves the Lord and loves our kids and they love her. And so that's been a huge blessing. And then, we live so close to mom and to mama. So we have so much help around us. And, truly, because people say, it's crazy to have kids
You're
so
just
young,
a stone's throw from
people.
Willie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, right there.
We have people all around us. And I did say we're about to, like you mentioned, we're about to move into our new house, which is so close to my mom and to my grandma. And I was like, this is dangerous because if I was, living this close to my grandma at that age, I would have ran away from home every day. I would have
That's what my grandkids do.
Well, because I always used to tell mom when I was upset, I would cry and I'd say, I'm moving in with two mama. That was my thing. So I was like, honey's definitely going to throw out. So I'm moving in with KK and Dubs.
But it's really funny because you and John Luke were the same kind of relationship that Lisa and I have with Carly and Bailey because you were the oldest two of the oldest child. Mm-hmm. and so you're around longer, and so that puts you in such a close proximity with your grandparents. And so that's the way it was with us. And so we are super close. And I love all my grandkids, of course, but there's some kind of a special bond with the oldest one or two in the UK. So watching you guys grow up, I noticed that same thing between Chris and you guys and Johnny, which is really great. So
It's true.
So tell us about the book. Kind of what's the idea behind it? How to put love first. It's a 90-day challenge, so it's like a devotional, right?
Yes, it's a devotional 90-day challenge, and it's about love, but it's for everyone. When people were asking Christian and I, they're like, "We want y'all to write a relationship book," and we were like, we've only been married for almost 4 years. I don't think that we should be the ones writing a relationship
We're not
book.
experts.
We're reading relationship books. We actually read a lot of relationship books when we were dating and engaged, and they helped us so much. And still, when we hang out with older married couples, we're always saying, give us your best piece of marriage advice. Like, we're constantly learning, and we just don't feel like we're at the place where we have that much to give, as much as we have to learn. And so we kind of just put it off for a little while. I don't think it's the time for that. And then Josh Kirby, y'all know Josh.
Mm-hmm.
So he's my cousin. He's a marriage and family counselor. And he reached out to me one day and was like, Sadie, I think it would be really cool if you wrote a relationship book. And he said, and I can help you. I'm a marriage and family counselor. I've been that for 10 years. I can kind of put in the expertise and the wisdom where it comes to relationship. And y'all just be vulnerable. Just be real. Talk about your day-to-day struggles and relationships. And I was like, that's actually a pretty cool idea. Like, if we're just honest about how we do relationship, and then we have him coming in with kind of just some really good advice from seeing relationships. Well, we started talking about this concept, and as we started writing it, it really wasn't intended to be like this. It was just as we started writing, all of them were about God. Like, it was just like our relationship with God, our relationship with God, our relationship with God. And so we were like, this really is becoming a relationship book with how do you have a good relationship with the Lord. And so we called it How to Put Love First, because it's really how do you put God first, because God is love. And then from there, all of your relationships will naturally be better because love is in the right place. And so that's kind of where the concept came from. And our first 30 days are your relationship with God. So if you get that down, it's going to get better. The next is like your relationship with people and your relationship with your community. And so,
Yeah, and it really
That's
is.
good.
Like Sadie said, it's not like a romantic relationship book. It's really, honestly, a lot of it is just practical stories of mishaps and screw-ups that we've had over the years of, situations where we did put God first and situations where we didn't.
Yeah.
And things that we've learned from, the things where we didn't. Like, for instance, we expose ourselves so many times throughout the book of just, embarrassing stories and stuff. I'll talk about road rage of somebody pulling out in front of me, and it's, I'll get so worked up, and then it's like a, 80-year-old woman like driving like this, and I'm like, okay, well, now I feel like a jackwagon. So situations like that, and it's like, well, how do you be patient in those situations? And
even like what you mentioned earlier with time, like, how do you learn how to have, just how do you walk with God 24/7 and not just get frustrated when your morning didn't turn out the way it is? It's more practical. Like, how do you just have love first and it makes your life better?
yeah, it's like if you don't have that, would you have a 20-minute drive to work? It's like, well, instead of listening to secular music in there, you can you have a Bible app on your phone that you can literally press the play button, and it reads the daily scriptures or whatever that could be. So
It's very practical.
there's so many things that you can do that I think sometimes we can just not be disciplined at it, that we lose sight of it. But yeah, it's really just a lot of it's just trying to be relatable to people. Of there are plenty of things that we struggle with still, and so we're really excited about it.
As believers, we have the ultimate advantage because we understand sacrifice, submission to each other. We understand so many of the biblical principles, but you're right. I love what I loved about it, because I kind of perused it last night, was how practical living that is. And so but you have to be intentional, right? I mean, you have to make a decision. I want to apply my relationship with God and the way we are into one another.
Right.
And into our parenting. And so it's that intentionality that I really liked about it. And Lisa and I are super excited to go through it, because I think anybody at any stage of a relationship, has to look back and say, look, let's make sure we're right with God first. And because we do our testimony all the time, our lives changed, our marriage changed when we finally both got on the same page with God.
Yep.
And because we went through 15 years without that, you know?
Yeah, Jill and I talk about this a lot with our own marriage. The biggest breakthrough that we had was when, we had kind of approached our marriage early on as kind of skills-based marriage improvement. And I love how you guys kind of flip the script on that, and you start the first 30 days. If you look in the book, it's God sees you, God knows you, God offers salvation, God is your father. God, I mean, it's the first word in the first 30-day study is God. And I love that because it's the point of our marriage is not, it's like the old Jerry Maguire, you complete me. And it's like, well, not really. I mean, that's the problem is if you're coming to this other person to complete you, then you've already missed the premise and the point of marriage. And so what you guys did in the book is that you're putting the preeminence of God first, and this is the foundation. And so anyone that's listening, by the way, it's not intimidating. It's not like, these are really kind of formative practices that you can go into on a 90-day schedule. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's like overwhelming that you're going to read like, oh my gosh, what it is just a rhythm, a 90-day rhythm and a reset. So I love the way that you guys did this by starting that rhythm off with who is God.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about us.
I love that you said that because that was actually when we first, the book was pretty much done. And that was the last 30 days was all the God sees you, God knows you. That was the last part. And I was literally walking through Walmart one day, just getting groceries. And it was like conviction. I was like, that has to be first. Like that has to be the first thing. Like that can't be the last thing. I think sometimes in our relationships, we treat it like that. It's like, let's, figure out each other and then we'll go to church on Sunday. Like that's like the last thing. But it's like, no, that has to be the first thing. And so I literally called my editor in Walmart. I was like, we got to change it. That has to be the first 30 days. And I was like, and if you don't change it and make it the first 30 days, then I will on social media tell everyone to read the book backwards because I was like, you have to start with it or
so
it doesn't.
You literally flipped the script.
I literally did. I literally called her and said, we have to change that to the first 30 days. And if we can't change it to the first 30 days, then I'm going to make it a marketing thing and I'm going to put all over social media to start backwards because it won't. That's the whole point is putting love first. And if we really are saying to put God first, then why is that not the first 30 days? Why is that not the most important thing that we're talking about? And, we're watching Tim Keller's Meaning of Marriage study right now with our marriage group. And it was like so good because they're interviewing this couple. One couple is a Christian couple, one couple is not. And the Christian couple was talking about how their marriage operates. And they were talking about a cord of three strands is not easily broken and just how powerful it is that God is in their relationship and kind of keeps them centered. Well, the non-Christian couple hadn't heard of that verse. And the guy said, that's actually he said that would be a really amazing thing to have in a relationship. He said, because in our relationship, the way that it works is when something goes wrong, we both do go to our outside sources, like the other thing in our relationship, but that would be our friends, our family. But she's going to a friend and I'm going to a friend. And so he said, what happens is when we're in conflict, we're both going to other things and other people. And then sometimes we get even more unstable because the advice they're getting from other people might not be bringing them closer together. It might actually be, leading them further away. So he said to think about having a third strand that is based on truth that we would both be going to center us. He said, that actually sounds like a good idea. And it was just,
pick me.
Yeah, I was like, it's cool to hear from that outside perspective of, oh, that's how, a relationship with God works. That's the beauty of it, is that your relationship is not, dependent on each other's feelings or season of life that you're going through or circumstance.
You can look back at it and say, we could be wrong, but we doubt it. Mm-hmm. I'm writing the book. That's the name of it.
I love that.
Speaking of new books, that's
what
Dad's
God's
new
done
book.
for you. You lay it all out. You're walking in His step, and you say, "We could be wrong, but we doubt it."
I love that.
The book people love that. They said,
That's the
it.
title. Yeah,
I
that's
love that.
That's
That's
gonna be pretty
great.
cool.
With I love how you start too, because the core of intimacy, and I was thinking when I was reading through your book, that how it starts with God sees you, and I'm thinking, man, think about like what went wrong, just the whole biblical narrative, and the first thing that happens when sin enters the world is Adam and Eve says, I don't want you to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And they cover, and it's like, that's why I love, even in the beginning, like God sees you, God knows you, like you can, this is like the seeding of the gospel at the very beginning of it. And it's just crazy how the gospel really is the answer for marriage too. It's the answer for intimacy, but it's this idea of, if I'm going to be intimate with somebody, they have to see me and they have to know me. The problem is I have sin. That's why chapter 3 or day 3 is God offers you salvation. And so you can start to see this rhythm between me and God is almost a mirror of a rhythm between me and my spouse. And I just love that. I don't know if you guys are even thinking about like the creation, fall, redemption, kind of Genesis 1, 2, and 3 narrative here, but it's just all in the way you guys set this up. It's absolutely beautiful.
That's cool.
Yeah, the Apostle Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it's the power of God.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
It's just according to how you look at it.
Yeah,
That's
and having
great.
that openness. Zach, I was in my sermon Sunday. I was talking about hypocrisy because I was in Luke 11, and that's the woes to the Pharisees. They were legalists, and so they were being hypocrites. And I said the only difference in a hypocrite and a sinner is one admits who he is. And when it comes to hypocrisy, it's like you have two options, and I use the garden as one of those. You can have shame, and this that's all I know, and then there's exile, because that's what happened to them. So people just, they don't know what to do with their lives because they're just living in the shame. Or you can have salvation, and you look at Psalm 51, and you see how David responded to hypocrisy. When he finally had that inward look, when Nathan finally got through to his heart, he was like, then read Psalm 51. I mean, here's a guy that's just pouring it out, and he's like, man, God, you're so good, and I'm so not good. Mm-hmm. And so you look at those two pictures, and you're like, how do I want to respond? Mm-hmm. Do I want to respond in salvation and surrender, or do I want to respond in shame? And that really becomes our two choices.
It's good.
That is good. Yeah, and you see that play out throughout the Old Testament as well. We're going through Luke right now, but we kind of got on a detour the last podcast. We're getting into a whole thing on the kingdom and going back to like some of the Old Testament prophecies. But you read through Isaiah and you look at Israel and Judah and just like it was the same pattern that you're talking about, Al. Just like it's this same pattern from the garden, and we do it now, but it's, I don't want to be seen for who I really am, because if I am, then I might be rejected because I know who I really am. And I had that in my marriage early on. I don't want Jill to see me for who I really am, because if she sees me, then she's probably not going to love me. And so there's a level of protection, a level of, it's a fig leaf is what I was doing, putting a fig leaf up so that you couldn't see my nakedness. And I think that the world's solution is often some version of this, that God looks at you and says, I know you think you're bad. You're not that bad. You're great. But the truth is we know we are bad. And I know that I know my inadequacies. I know my moral failings. I know my character flaws, if I'm being honest. And so that's a horrible solution, because when I hear it, I hear bootstrap yourself up. And when I heard that in my marriage, bootstrap yourself up, it was just met with more condemnation, more shame, more inability to actually do anything about it. And that's not the gospel. The gospel is Romans 5, that while we were enemies, Christ died for us. While he died for the ungodly, he died for us at our worst. And so God sees us in our brokenness. Mm-hmm. He sees us in our rebellion, sees us in our wickedness. And he says, I know you think you're bad, but here's the truth. You're actually much, much worse than you think you are. And I died for you there. That's where I died. That's where I see you. And that's where I know you. And if God sees me and knows me, these first 2 days of your book, if God sees me and he knows me while I'm an enemy, and he says, and I died for you there, now that's true intimacy, because I don't have to perform for him anymore, because I can't. And he saw me at my worst, and he's not leaving. He's present and available at my worst, he says, that's where I came for you. And so when you can experience that with God, it is transformational. And I know it's progressive. I mean, I've been a Christian for 20 something years and I still have shame. I still have guilt. I still deal with stuff, but it's a progressive healing that God is teaching me intimacy. And then I can take that into my marriage and now I can model my marriage after who God is. You know, that's Ephesians 5, right? I mean, it's modeling after the Trinity, modeling it after God. And I think that's where healing's at. But we're so broken that we need rhythms. That's why I love, Christian, love your podcast, by the way, because you're talking a whole lot about physical formation and spiritual formation. But this happens through daily rhythms. And I love the 90-day rhythm. I think it's such a perfect time to reset.
So we're out of time, but How to Put Love First, 9-Day Challenge. It's from Thomas Nelson. I'm assuming just anywhere you get books.
Anywhere you
can find
get
that.
books.
Also, of course, Christian's 4-8 podcast.
The 4-8 Men podcast.
4-8 Men. Look for that. And then WOA.
Whoa, that's good.
That's good. It's Sadie's podcast. We're always right there in competition. Friendly, good competition.
Friendly competition.
As well
4-8 men.
That's right, 4-8 Men.
I'm not competition up there yet, but
that's all right.
Y'all are the two.
You're growing. You're
Cheering
growing.
everybody
You're getting
on.
there, Christian. So before we go to overtime, Sadie and Christian are going with us to overtime. I asked them to find something Luke 15 through 18, which is where we are in our text. So we will do something out of that for our overtime segment. If you want to follow us over for a little more with Christian and Sadie, blazetv.com/unashamed is where you can find that. So thank y'all for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Unashamed podcast. Help us out by rating us on iTunes. And don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube, and be sure to click that little bell to get notified about new episodes. And for even more content that you won't get anywhere else, subscribe to Blaze TV at blazetv.com/unashamed.